But I've also got the absolute honor of calling this guy a really good friend. Plus, he's got the most gorgeous beard in rock and metal. Tim from the Mighty One, how are you, my friend?
I am fantastic. Like, you're down under, I'm up over in Canada.
And of course, it's your 28th birthday today. Many happy returns for the day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's as of midnight tonight. Well, actually, in Australia, it's already my birthday, but here, not quite yet. Few hours away. But yeah, yeah, it really special to be talking to you on my birthday. It's really special.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. We've got so much to talk about, and it's really, we need to introduce Australia to the Mighty One, because you've just had a wonderful bit of time up in Scandinavia. I
Yes.
saw plenty of footage from there. It looked such an exciting trip for you guys. How did it go?
You know, the Rise Up tour was amazing. As you saw, you know, so I've got this thing called the Rise Up TV show. Okay, and it's a reality TV show. I take artists out on the road. Some artists have never been on the road before. We had actually somebody on this tour that was like 82 years old, had never really been on the road before. And then I had, like, you know, people in their early 20s, a couple of girls, and took them out, and we did 5 countries in 5 days, 5 different shows, flights in between. It was insane. It was crazy. Some nights, like, only 1 hour sleep. That's what RiseUP TV is. It's this intense touring experience. You know what I mean?
Fantastic. And where can we see that? Is that available for anywhere around the world to watch?
Yeah, you look up on YouTube, look for RiseUP TV on YouTube, and you'll see I've got 2 episodes up there right now. So just to let you know, I'm the co-producer, co-director, and host, and obviously character on the show. So, you know, it's this thing I jumped into a year ago. I came on as like, okay, let's go experience this. And I grabbed a hold of it and I went, this is mine. And made it my own show, you know, in a very big way, with, of course, an amazing team. It can't just be me. But I love this thing so much. And we're touring the world. Like you said, you know, after that tour, everybody else went home, but the videographer and my drummer Bob from the Mighty One, who I think you've met before. You've met Bob before, yes?
I met on your album launch night when you'd all had a couple of beers late at night.
That's right. That's right. And so we continued on. We went to Norway. We met up with the band called Viking Queen. These guys are like, they sing about Vikings. They are Vikings, obviously. They're from Norway. And they play metal. And we met up with those guys, and we kind of co-created a festival together in a town called Sandefjord, which is in the southern part of Norway. There's like a 2-hour ferry, I think, to get to Sweden from there. So it's really south. And it's a 3-level club. We had like 600-700 people there. It was the very first ever Rise Up festival.
Wow.
Which is, you know, something I want to create. I want to bring it down under too. And we had that, and it was a huge success. And now we're looking at Rise Up Festival 2 in Norway, Scandinavia, coming up in 8 months from now. I think June of next year we'll be doing one there again for like 2,000 or 3,000 people. That's what the plan is right now. So this Rise Up thing, I'm telling you, you know, like, touring has been a bit of a challenge for us with the Torch of Rock and Roll. So if your audience doesn't know, we had an album just recently called The Torch of Rock and Roll, which we put out. We've still got a couple of singles left on this one, but trying to get touring during the pandemic was just like impossible.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, right? So this Rise Up thing was something that I worked with others who'd already been working on it, and we dreamed this together, and we've been touring for the last year under this RiseUP TV banner and filming episodes. I think we got 10 episodes ready to release right now. So
fantastic. Well, the one thing I've always realized with you since the day we met was your positivity in life, whether it's you jumping in freezing lakes in Canada with a smile on your face. And Rise Up, it couldn't be a more apt name because this sounds like it certainly is rising up. And you did give it a mention earlier, so let's give it a little. There's my mighty one, Torture Rock and Roll.
I was gonna say, wow, and the album Torture Rock and Roll. There it is.
There it is. So we ask our viewers and listeners get onto this fantastic album, which we will talk about shortly. But I'm very lucky to have a collection of.
You have them all. You have Shift. And you have the very first one. Holy cow, that's amazing.
Of course. So and they're played lovingly. They're fantastic. All of them are fantastic in their own right. But let's talk about Torture Rock and Roll. We'll start at the nearest, because it was a very tough time to release it with what was going on in the world. But as I said, you've always been so positive. And there's some wonderful tracks. Still, the song that will always resonate for me and give me goosebumps is Kicking Stones, which is just the most incredible song. Beautiful song. But the album's just got so much of everything. There's some real kick-ass rockers in there. There's some that ease off a bit with a bit more melodic. It's just fantastic.
I'm so glad you like it. I'm so glad you like it. You know, this is Torture Rock and Roll is really it's the legacy record for the Mighty One. It truly is, because what you got to realize is, you know, Coming On, which opens the record, is something that's brand new. So that was written during the pandemic. But then you look at songs like Garden that were written in 1993.
Wow. Oh, wow. So some history in this album.
Burden, early 2000s. Kicking Stones is 1993 also. So it's very much a legacy record where, you know, the past, the present, and the future are all melded together into one record. That's what the Torture Rock and Roll is. And that's why there's that, you know, that Zippo lighter on the front, because when you and I used to go to concerts when we were kids, that's what we had. We didn't have cell phones yet, right? We didn't have none of that. We had a Zippo lighter, and we hung, or a Bic or whatever it was, right? But we actually held the flame. And that's what it's about. The Torture Rock and Roll is the flame that burns inside. It's the flame that burns inside of me. It's the flame that burns inside of Bob, the drummer, because we're from that era. We are products of the 1980s, when rock and roll was this beautiful, glamorous thing. You know, it was really special. I mean, why are bands like AC/DC and Guns N' Roses and Iron Maiden, why are those bands still so huge? Because something very special was happening at that time. And the Torch of Rock and Roll album has that vibe.
And do you know what's nice about it is you're saying some of the songs are from the 90s. Isn't it nice for you to fulfill a home for those songs that, you know, some bands would write songs that long ago and they just get put aside and never see the light of day. But there's songs that have obviously meant so much to you that have finally found a home on the Torch of Rock and Roll.
Absolutely, brother. Well, absolutely. I mean, if you could see inside my studio right now, the back wall here behind my monitor that I'm speaking on is a wall, and my drummer from the 80s, his name was Jeff Warbeck. And he and I, we experienced the Paul Stanley experience together. Like, Paul Stanley was our manager for like 5 years. And so now Jeff, he was on the wall here during the whole time we recorded Torch of Rock and Roll. He was here on the wall looking at me, and he, in some ways, posthumously produced this record. Really, he did. And so this album is a tribute to him. Now, the final song that we're going to release is going to be Kickin' Stones, because Kickin' Stones is about my friend Jeff.
I remember you saying it was a very personal song.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and I love that track, and I think anyone that hears it, that guitar, the second half of that song, that guitar is just goosebump stuff. It just gives me goosebumps up my arms.
You know what's really special about that is that the original guitar player who was in the band at the time, the name of the band at that time was called Reality Kane, with a K, Reality Kane. And it was all about getting hit with reality, right? You know what I mean? That's what the whole concept of that band was about. But that's where that song comes from. But the original guitar player from 1993 sat here in this room right where I'm sitting and played the exact same solo.
Wow.
A couple of years ago.
Wow.
So
how cool is that?
Yeah. And the original keyboard player, the piano player, played the piano. So, you know, I was able to pull these people in from the past and bring it into the future, bring it into the now. It was, yeah, amazing experience. That's why this is a legacy record for us. And I hope that anybody who hears the album really feels that. And most people that I've talked to who've taken the time to sit with the whole record from start to finish, they get that feeling. They go, wow, there's a story there. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, we, as I said at the beginning of this interview, we've got so much to talk about that I already realize we're going to have to make this a two-parter, because we've still got all the past to talk about. We've got the first album and the forming of the band. So the Mighty One, I believe, was around 2008.
Yeah, 2007 was the release of the first record that I did with Devin Townsend. That's who. And this studio that I'm sitting here was the home of the Devin Townsend band for a number of years, and they recorded some of their first records here together. Obviously, Devin had done lots of stuff before that, but the Devin Townsend band, the drummer was Ryan, RVP, was my drummer, and the Devin Townsend band was my band for the first record. And that was 2007.
Wow. And then, of course, Shift. We had Shift came along, which I have in my hands here.
Yeah.
Which people can go on your socials. Can they get these in a merch area?
Yeah, absolutely. They can go to Bandcamp. So the Mighty One.bandcamp.com. All the records are there, including recent releases from just a few days ago.
Wow. And of course, we could talk about that very briefly in relation to Remembrance Day. There was a beautiful video shot on Utah Beach, which I saw on your Facebook page.
Yeah, so that was part of the Rise Up thing, you know. I heard we were, for the Rise Up tour, the plan was France, UK, Ireland, and Norway. Okay, so and then we did a little stop in Denmark. That was the 5 countries. But when I heard that we were going to France and that we're actually going to go to Utah Beach, which is one of the beaches. So there was 5 beaches in Normandy that the Allied forces on June 6th, 1944, where they all came with boats, they came with tanks, they came with planes. There was this huge assault to basically to neutralize the German occupation of France at the time. And so when I heard we were going there, I'm like, okay, well, this is an opportunity to write a song that will sort of capture the moment. And so I visualized being there on the beach, and I wrote the song Warrior, which just released a little bit ago. And yeah, we performed it on the beach, Bob and I, and it was absolutely an incredible experience. You don't really know, like you can sit at home and here in the studio and write the song and visualize what it's going to be like, but to actually be there on the beach after a 2-hour tour through the museum of how it all went down, and the planes are there, and they had everything there. They had the boats there. They had, they had the tunnels. They had everything was there, including like old Nazi paraphernalia and things. And so to go through that for a couple of hours and then to go to the beach and perform a song to honor the veterans was a very, very emotional thing.
Must have been very spiritual.
It was very spiritual. It was very emotional. It was everything that Bob and I could do not to crack, basically. We had to take a couple of takes because the first one we cracked. We did.
Yeah. Yeah, but isn't that nice though? You got to suck up that emotion and that, and because I think if a lot more people in the world got to experience things like that, they would have an understanding of what sacrifices were made over the years. And obviously, we don't want to go too deep into emotional
Well,
things like
sure.
that, but it's so important. It's that the history is there for a reason.
Well, I mean, we just went through here in Canada. I don't know if you guys celebrate it, but we do Remembrance Day. Do you guys do Remembrance Day
We
in
do
Australia?
Remembrance Day. We have the minute silence at 11 o'clock on the 11th of the 11th.
So yesterday you had that also. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the song Warrior, if people want to go to that Bandcamp page and check it out, I mean, if you buy the song, the dollar that you pay or whatever you want to pay for it, it goes right to the veterans here in Canada. But it's an emotional thing when you realize what those men did for us to preserve peace. But then on the other side of that shit is still going on. You look at the Ukraine and you look at Russia and you just go, like, did we not learn?
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, the song speaks about that. So if people want to check that out.
No worries. Let's take you straight back to you as when music started for you, briefly, because Canada, I mean, I'm quite good friends with the guys from Anvil. So they were probably the only metal band I knew of in Canada before you and I became friends. So what was your upbringing like music wise? What was playing around the time you were listening to music?
Well, I mean, I think my first rock record was probably ABBA. I mean, that was still pop at the time, but I grew up in a like a Mennonite family in northern British Columbia. I don't know if you know what Mennonite is, but so if you think of like the Amish, you're aware of the Amish, aren't you?
Of course, yes.
So kind of like that. We weren't wearing the black garb anymore, but it was in that zone. You know what I mean? That's what I grew up in. My dad was the organist in the church. And we lived like probably 50 miles away from the nearest town or city. So we were out in the middle of nowhere, and the church was everything. And the church was my stage. And that's where my family performed. That's where I learned about music, where I learned about performance, where I learned about choir and everything like that. I didn't much like it as a young man. I couldn't wait to leave. But I look back now and I go, wow, I was in show business since I was like, that big.
It started there, and look where you are now. The exact same cheeky chap, but without the beard, I'm sure.
That's right. That's for sure. I still had hair up here. Yeah.
Well, something that interests me, and I like to ask a couple of questions just to kind of get some generic finishing to things. And it kind of gives me an idea of who your influences are and what it means to you. So I love to ask a restaurant question, which is, if I could book you a table for a couple of hours in a restaurant and you could invite 3 guests from the music world, dead or alive, who would you have come and sit with you?
Wow. I think Bob Dylan would be one of them, just because he's so real and raw and organic. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'd never really been a huge fan of his music, but I've been a huge fan of him and how committed he is to what he does.
Yeah.
The other person would have to be, or one of the other people would have to definitely be Alice Cooper.
Cool.
Because I just love the way that he the show. I just love the show. You know what I mean? I love the show. And the third person, it's been a while since I've seen him, but it'd be nice to see Paul Stanley again. Yeah, cool. And show him where we're at now, I think our deal ended in around the mid 90s. We had a multi-million-dollar record deal, and multi-year deal with Polygram Records, and Paul Stanley was our manager. But then the first Nirvana record came out, and it just all just kind of fizzled.
Yeah.
You know, it just did. That hair metal was out, and everything just sort of got washed anew and remade, you know.
Yeah.
And so it'd be nice to sit with Paul again, sit with him and say, hey, Paul, this has been the journey, and this is where I was then, and where we were together then, but this is where things are at now. I think
what a great table of legends of the music world.
Totally. Bob Dylan, Alice Cooper, and Paul Stanley. Would that be a great dinner or what?
That would be a great dinner. I'm going to be sitting on the table next to you so I can have a listen to what you're chatting about. So, Tim, what was the last album you listened to?
Oh, geez, the last album I listened to. Holy cow. I think it's the new Scorpions record. The new Scorpion.
How did you find it?
I found it so honest and so real. Yeah, I totally dig. And they had a couple of live cuts on there. I love how the Scorpions, they never really have, like AC/DC in a lot of ways, have never really given up the formula. They're just the Scorpions, you know? And this new record is rawer and realer than ever before. There's minor production. The songs just sit by themselves, and Klaus just delivers like he always does.
I know they've just done a massive tour North America with Thunder Mother, who I've been enjoying their music.
That's right. Yeah, Thunder Mother's amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Amazing.
Well,
yeah.
I've saved the easiest question for last, Tim, because I know you're a thinker. If you could be credited with writing any song ever written, what song would you choose?
It's easy. Silent Lucidity.
It's now yours. You now own it. Well done.
No, that song still, every time I hear it, it brings back a pinnacle moment in my life. You know? Yeah, that deal with Paul Stanley.
Yeah.
I had a trophy wife at the time. She had a Jaguar and platinum card. And I was living the rock star life, you know? So Silent Lucidity and what the song actually even means, you know? It's about what I believe in. I believe in all the magic in life already exists inside of us. We just got to take the time every day to go and visit it. That's it.
And that's, you know, if we lived our life with a couple of rules, I saw you posted today 4 rules you close your day out with, you know, it would give us all something to aim for.
Yeah, what went well, what didn't go well, and what can I do better tomorrow? And then what's 3 things I'm grateful for? If we live like that every day, life is a beautiful thing.
Tim, that's a fantastic way to end our chat for part 1, because we need to revisit this again to talk all about the Paul Stanley era, the debut album Shift, and talking about when you picked up a guitar. So let's do another interview in a couple of weeks' time when you're free and talk about this even more in depth, because there's so much to talk about.
I really look forward to that, Sean. I really appreciate you making the time. I really appreciate your work wearing the shirt, flying the flag.
It just about fits, Tim. It just fits. Tim, thanks.
And you know
so
what?
Much. Well,
thank you so much. Thank you so much, my friend. And I look forward to the day we meet in person.
Well, when we do part 2, let's talk about Australia and the fact it's something we've discussed, and it's something that we hope to help make reality. So let's reconvene in a week's time and conclude this, because there's so much to talk about yourself and the Mighty One, and the many other projects you've been involved in over the years.
Thank you so much, brother. Have a blessed evening, my friend. I'm going to go and enjoy a little bit more birthday cheer. Cheers.
You enjoy that. You've deserved it thoroughly, and it's always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for your time, Tim, and we'll speak soon.
All right, brother. Cheers.